Joining me now, Illinois Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi, a Democratic member of the House Oversight and Intelligence Committees. Congressman, welcome, sir. I'm curious your reaction to this developing situation in Haiti. We have the New York Times now reporting that while the country is accustomed to lawlessness, the abduction of such a large group has shocked officials because of its brazenness. How unusual is this?
Well, unfortunately, it's very common now in Haiti, Alex. At least 628 people have been kidnapped since the first of the year, dozens of foreigners. Oftentimes they're doing it even without face coverings, meaning they don't really care who knows their identity at this point. And so it's brazen, it's common. And if the reports are true that 17 Americans have been kidnapped, including children, we have to get them back immediately, and we have to hold those accountable who did the kidnapping. Because we don't want open season on Americans or anybody at this point with regard to kidnappings.
I'm wondering, why are they doing this? Is it always a ransom for money, a ransom for goods, a ransom for some sort of political opportunity? And are most of these people who are kidnapped, are they returned safely?
It appears that it's mainly ransom for money. I heard reports of people being kidnapped and the ransom is like $100. And I think that the economic situation is so dire in Haiti that this has become a local cottage industry at this point, Alex.
I mean, what can the U.S. do about this? What's our responsibility here?
Well, with regard to the immediate situation, I think that the U.S. has to work with local authorities. Again, if this is true, that they have to work with local authorities and secure the release, leaving all options on the table for getting these Americans back. And then I think they have to make this gang, apparently it's called 400 Mawazo or something to that effect, they have to pay. They cannot be allowed to continue with this because, there are a lot of Americans in Haiti, as you know, who are trying to do God's work and trying to help locals. And we can't allow for continued kidnappings. Long term, of course, we have to stabilize the situation. And that requires a lot of diplomacy, but also economic assistance and security assistance to get the situation and the country back on its feet.
Yeah. Congressman, I'm going to ask you to stay with me for just a moment. We're going to go to Capitol Hill. I'm going to get you to weigh on activities there in just a moment. So back with you in just a sec. Meantime, NBC's Julie Sirkin is joining me now. And Julie, Tuesday is potentially a big day for the Select Committee investigating the January 6th Capitol riots. What are you expecting?
Well, Alex, we're expecting the criminal referral to pass out of the committee on Tuesday night before it heads to a vote before the full House soon after. We don't yet know the exact time, but it will happen swiftly, we are told. And then it's sure to be a long and tedious process if the Department of Justice agrees to prosecute this. But listen, Alex, members on the committee, Democrats, are all too familiar with conducting oversight of the Trump administration, or should I say trying to conduct oversight of the Trump administration. They know how difficult it's been over the last few years with impeachments, with the Russia investigation, to get Trump allies to comply with their subpoenas, and they're tired of it. Adam Schiff, he's, of course, on the House Select Committee. He also is the chairman of the Intelligence Committee. Here's what he had to say this morning about this.
And we'll pass it out of the committee on Tuesday. I don't know the date that we will take it up on the floor. We hope to take it up very soon. But we're not messing around here. We're moving very expeditiously. To me, this is an early sign of whether our democracy is recovering, whether it's true that no one is above the law, that the rule of law must apply. So we intend to go after anyone who doesn't provide information that they're lawfully compelled to our committee.
So listen, Schiff there, he's a member of the committee. He wants this to wrap up quickly because the committee doesn't have all the time in the world. And he went on to say there, it's in part because of fears that what happened in this Capitol on January 6th could happen again soon, with all the rhetoric being stowed still by the former president, by Steve Bannon, who they want to hear from, and by his allies. Alex?
Okay. Thank you for that report. And from Julie Sirkin there at the Capitol, back to Illinois Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi. All right, Congressman, how do you, sir, sir, see the criminal contempt process playing out with Steve Bannon. Do you think he will be held in criminal contempt, or could he run out the clock with court challenges?
He will definitely try, but I agree with Chairman Schiff that now we have to move very quickly to refer this matter to the Justice Department. The one difference between now and what happened previously when the Trump administration was in charge is now we actually have a Justice Department that is likely to take up the criminal referral. Of course, Mr. Bannon is likely to challenge it in the courts, and that's why we have to hustle at this point before he tries to run out the clock. But one thing is for sure, which is Steve Bannon, to the extent that he had plotted or had a hand in masterminding January 6th or knew about what was going to happen and consulted with the president about it, needs to testify and needs to produce information to the committee because the American people want to know the truth about January 6th.
And that specific committee has said that Mark Meadows and Kash Patel are cooperating in some way. Do you have any insight into what that exactly means, and how important is their testimony in your mind? I mean, what kind of questions do you still want answered?
Well, I think it's very important. In particular, Mr. Meadows was the president's chief of staff. And the biggest question that I have is, what did they know before January 6th in the lead up to January 6th? And why is it the case that on January 6th it took hours and hours, up to 5 hours, from the time that the Capitol Police and the Metropolitan Police Department requested assistance from the D.C. National Guard and the time that they actually arrived on the scene? I questioned acting defense secretary or former acting defense secretary Chris Miller about it. He had no good answers, except that we know that the president was aware of what was happening and still did not command the D.C. National Guard to come to the assistance of local authorities in ending the insurrection.
And having said just that, Committee Chair Benny Thompson told CNN last week subpoenaing Donald Trump, that is still not off the table. Today, committee member Adam Kinzinger confirmed if Trump has a piece of information they need, they will certainly subpoena him. How critical do you think it is for the committee to hear directly from Donald Trump?
Well, I think that option should not be taken off the table. As you know, the former president, is going to claim executive privilege over everything that he said and all his information related to January 6th. I would argue that that executive privilege would not apply because the executive privilege only applies when national security matters might compel them. And in this case, the opposite is true, that actually national security would argue for him producing information to the committee so that we can prevent such an insurrection from happening again.
Yeah, and it seems the Biden administration is very much in sync with that as well. Before you go, sir, on Friday, I know you took part in a Chicago-based oversight committee hearing regarding the recent failures of the United States Postal Service. What did you learn about the issue slowing mail service? I ask on behalf of everyone as the holidays approach.
What I learned is that Louis DeJoy is at the heart of why we've had a mail slowdown. He's worsened delivery standards, and he's raising rates. It's a horrible recipe for any kind of business model. And I think the best Christmas present that we can deliver to the American people is giving them a new postmaster general before the holiday season. Because unless we do, unfortunately, the current woes of the Postal Service are going to continue throughout that season.
Well, we will see if the board of the Postal Service agrees with you.